So we are now live on Facebook, and my name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special presenter, we have Lisa Shank. She has so much amazing knowledge and expertise, and she is one of the educators for Symphony. So love to take the live stream floor, Lisa Shank.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Well, wonderful. Well, first, I'm going to introduce you to the company, give you a little bit of background so that you understand why you can trust us and what makes us unique in providing Maca. And I think at the end of the presentation, you'll find that not all Maca is the same, and understanding those differences is really important to the solutions that you're seeking. So at Symphony, we start everything we do with our why. So we strive to be a conscious, leading, and empowering company. And we do this through our vision, our intention, and our actions, empowering you with the knowledge and solutions needed to achieve and maintain your best possible health. Of course, I got to learn how to advance these. So our vision is to create and support a synergistic symphony within the body, and also between the company, the communities with whom we partner, and the environment within which we work, to bring about harmony and health for you, our team, and the world. We seek to establish a direct and individualized communication with everyone in order to build a one-on-one relationship, to increase understanding about each individual's own body, to foster complete well-being through nourishing foundational health holistically, and to employ a triple bottom line company culture, evaluating all the decisions we make on the social, environmental, and economic impacts, both internally and externally. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Meissner, who's our Director of Research and Development and the co-founder of the company. Now, there's a lot to be said about Henry, but it's not enough really to tell you that he has built 7 herbal extraction facilities around the world, worked for 12 different governments, served on a variety of corporate and academic boards, and published more than 320 research and technical publications that are in professional journals and 21 books. These are few of the titles that he's held over the years. But I think what's really interesting here is that he's been named as one of the 2,000 outstanding intellectuals of the 21st century from the International Bibliographical Center in Cambridge, England, and 500 leaders of influence from the American Bibliographical Institute. And I think when you look at the science that Henry has developed in relationship to each of the herbs that we manufacture, you'll understand why he is such an influencer. This is James Frame, who is our intrepid leader, CEO, and founder of the company. What's interesting, I think, here is that he's been working in the natural products industry for 23 years, during which time he established this globally vertically integrated business that operates in 18 countries. And this network includes organic and sustainable farming, manufacturing operations, clinical research and development, and the distribution of natural products. He first founded the company in '97 as a raw materials provider to some of the largest herbal extraction companies around the world. And many of those you may have heard about, and some you may not, but we really became well known for the level of efficacy of the herbs that he was able to provide. And starting in '99 through 2006, James and Dr. Meissner worked to establish farms and a vertically integrated manufacturing process in Peru that can supply up to 400 tons of maca, as well as having invested $5 million over 5 years of clinical research on feminescence specifically. This is our medical team, and I think the interesting thing to note here is that you see that they have a wide variety of practices here, but they all have a very large aspect of women's health in their practice. So a little bit about the company's history. Symphony is the parent company, as the parent company, Natural Health International, which is now known as Symphony Natural Health, was established in 1997 and was an amalgamation of raw materials founded by James that I talked about, supplying the herbal extraction companies that I mentioned, The annual production, for instance, of 200 tons of St. John's wort, 100 tons of kava, and 100 tons of red clover in the company's first year. But what really put the company on the map was the level of active ingredients that they were able to provide in the herbs that they were supplying. In fact, often those levels in the dried herbs that superseded extracts, which is a product that is trying to concentrate a specific constituent about the plant. So a lot of times they were able to achieve, most of the time, they were able to achieve something much higher. And in the case of cavalactones, for instance, 30% higher than any other competitor. So it's really important to understand how we have been able to achieve what it is that we do. And in producing the highest quality products, it's not about getting one thing right. It's really about getting everything right. One thing that's really unusual about our company is that we are a seed to shelf supplier, and that is quite unusual in our industry. So it starts with exploring the biology and chemistry of each plant to identify key biomarkers, selecting the ideal species of that plant, the variety or phenotype in seed selection, finding the best country, environment, soil, elevation, and weather in which to grow, and then determining optimal time of the season, the day, the lunar cycle, and the method to harvest in order to optimize those active ingredients in the plant. And then we look at testing and drying methods to determine how or even if that herb should be dried after harvest. We've developed the most natural way to process and manufacture each plant to concentrate the full spectrum of active ingredients while maximizing bioavailability, but we only ever use water, temperature, and pressure in the process. So we are completely vertically integrated in all of the countries in which we operate. Our novel manufacturing process has enabled us to concentrate the full spectrum of active ingredients without the use of chemicals, and this has resulted in the highest quality and purity products. Our research and development includes full pharmacology and toxicology and published human blind placebo-controlled crossover clinicals. So if you don't know who this person is at the bottom, this is Tori Hudson, and she's the founder and formulator for Vitanica, which is a women's health product line, amazing products. And she's quoted here recognizing the clinical studies that we did on feminescence. The takeaway line really here is that in early postmenopausal women, feminescence showed not only significant symptom relief, but the impact on serum estradiol and FSH levels, and even an influence on markers of bone turnover. So the implications for women's health are considerable, and she's experienced great results with her product, with her patients rather. So coming from another formulator who has Maca in her product line, I think this is quite remarkable. So our strict attention to all aspects of purity, including organic certification, non-GMO, heavy metals Prop 65 compliance, and products that are free of any additives whatsoever, including gluten, dairy, and soy, and all in a vegan capsule means that you just are assured of having 100% pure product, and every ingredient is listed on the label with no hidden additives. And again, we're controlling every stage of production from seed to shelf, and then we do long-term quality stability analysis to make sure that the product is stable and efficacious all the way through to your taking it. And then as you see here, everything is in an oxygen barrier blister pack, which is preventing oxygen and moisture from penetrating through to the product and degrading it. So you'll learn a little bit more about that to come. So again, we have market-leading products. All of them are designed to create a symphony within the body, returning our cells, hormones, circadian rhythm, and body detoxification to a state of optimal balance, restoring us back to harmony and health by addressing the root cause. So we are not just going for symptom relief. We really want to go to supporting foundational health holistically. And we've covered the fact that we have full pharmacology, toxicology, and double-blind human clinical trials, and all of our products are vegan and kosher certified so that anyone can use them. And we strive to have the lightest footprint on the environment as we possibly can, particularly around our environmentally sustainable agricultural practices around the world. This slide is something that I'm so proud of about the company, which is that all of our operations in third world countries are either joint ventures or are 100% locally employing or employing local people rather. We establish value add industries rather than just a fair trade situation. So we're creating year-round employment and generating up to 10 times the revenue that standard operations would for these local communities. We support a number of educational bodies, a few of those that you see here. And again, we really try to support the industry and all of the people from the grower all the way through. We're often asked how we know so much about maca. And what's really interesting is that if you look at the research, you're going to notice that about 75 to 80% of the research is written by one of these three individuals. Here you see Dr. Meissner on the left with Dr. Gonzalez. Dr. Gonzalez is considered the leading expert in maca for men. In the middle is Dr. Chacon with Dr. Meissner. Dr. Chacon is regarded as the mother of maca in Peru. And Dr. Meissner on the right, who has done more research on maca for women than any other scientist in the world. These are just a few of the key publications by Dr. Meissner. And if you're interested in reading any of those, you're welcome to go to our website where everything is listed and you can find all of those publications. So there was recently a research paper summarizing rather the findings by the USDA and NSF with the American Botanical Council looking at maca phenotype specifically. And what we were looking at, what the research used was a mass spectral fingerprinting metabolomic analysis and a genetic sequencing approach to determine the maca phenotype questions. So looking at that research, they looked at maca phenotypes, maca. So there are 175 different species of maca. We looked at, they looked at Lepidium mayani, which is synonymous with Lepidium peruvianum. And that was analyzed using this flow injection mass spectrometry fingerprint to profile those metabolites in DNA with next generation sequencing. Samples consisted of 39 commercial maca supplements from 11 manufacturers, 31 unprocessed maca tubers grown in 2 different locations in Peru and China, which is going to be interesting as we go along, you'll see. There were 135 compounds identified. This is a list of a few of those. And then genetically, all samples were confirmed to be the same so that we're comparing apples to apples. And then those were recorded sequences of verified standards. If you're interested in reading that literature, you can go to the herb clip there. This is a live link, and you can find this on our website, by the way. And you'll see on the second bullet point down on the bottom that we adopted the herb maca for the American Botanical Council herbal program. And then there's an interesting article, The Colors of Maca, written by Dr. Minnick, which is really quite interesting. And that's found on our website as well. You're welcome to take a look at that. So again, there are 175 different Lepidium species. And within those, Lepidium peruvianum, there are 13 different phenotypes. Those phenotypes, if you're not familiar with what a phenotype, it is the physical characteristic, how something manifests in nature. So, you know, when you think about, trying to think of an analogy, maybe mushrooms, you know, we have all different kinds of mushrooms. So that refers to the different species, as the first bullet point is. When you're looking at phenotypes, that's referring to the physical characteristics of how something might manifest. Within that, there can be different colors and different DNA, different analytical profiles, and some of these can even elicit a different physiological effect on the body. And they can be any color, black, red, all different types of maca. You see a few of those here. But what's really interesting is just because you plant the seeds for red maca, let's say, it may not propagate in that color red. So that's why differentiating by DNA analysis is so critical. You see here that maca is extremely nutriently dense. It has a very broad nutritional profile. But what's really interesting are these secondary metabolites, which are a few of those are listed here. And what's really interesting, and we're going to get into that a little bit more, is that those distinct differences were observed between phenotypes, but also between the locations of cultivation. The secondary metabolites are what are presumed to be responsible for the benefits of maca alone or in combination. What we're looking at on the right are amino acids. And what you see here is that feminescence on lines 1 and 6 has a greater and more concentrated level of all of the amino acids present in maca than do even the 10-to-1 or the 5-to-1 maca extracts on line 3 and 4. So maca is part of the Brassicaceae family, and this includes cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And much like those, maca has a very high level of glucosinolates and other active constituents that support our detoxification and metabolism of hormones. There are 9 different glucosinolates in maca, but these are very unstable and are easily destroyed by heat, oxygen, and moisture, which is why manufacturing methods are really critical, as well as packaging, and in order to maintain and stabilize those active ingredients. Feminescence has up to 400 times the level of glucosinolates than what is found in broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And broccoli and Brussels sprouts are the primary ingredients that you find in things like DIM and I3C, which many people know of for supporting hormone metabolism. So the recently published research that we're going to talk about has shown that harvest sites also favor higher concentration of the macamines and the macaines, which are the secondary metabolites that we're going to talk about, but they might lead to a lower concentration of glucosinolates. So it's really interesting about how each feature will manifest. Here, what we're looking at on the right are the glucosinolates. So I talked about 9 different glucosinolates in maca, but they are really in two primary families. Most companies will concentrate either one glucosinolate family or the other. And what you see here is that feminescence has a high glucosinolate concentration in both glucosinolate families, even more so than the 10-to-1 and the 5-to-1 maca extracts. So this is where it gets really interesting, I think, and that is that we'll talk a little bit about the traditional aspects of maca, as well as kind of some of the current conditions. So it's primarily been grown in Peru, mostly for the last 1,000 years or so in the Hunan province, but it's recently kind of moved over into the Ancash region as well. And then we've seen that it has now spread to China. China has really started to be interested in maca, and they're becoming a major producer of maca in the world. It's interesting. There's a interesting YouTube video if you're ever interested in looking at how that interest that China has and the cultivation of maca in China has really been hard on the Peruvian economy. Cultivation location, soil, and environment appear to really have some significant impacts on secondary metabolite variations. And that's not just between Peru and China, but also with variations between locations where it's grown in Peru, even at the same altitude. But what's interesting is that red maca, for instance, won't grow in China. So try as though they might, they've been unable so far to actually get a cultivation of red maca there. Interestingly, higher total levels of glucosinolates have been recorded in the Chinese maca, but there have been seen to be very significant variations within those profiles, both in the Chinese and Peruvian maca, and even within growing conditions within Peru, where the GLCT in both the Chinese and Peruvian maca are present. And the EMS GLCT was only detected in the Peruvian maca. And those are really important features of the constituents. So traditionally, maca is grown in the Andes in Peru at about 3,500 to 4,500 meters above sea level. And it's also spread to China, as we discussed, and it's being grown there at about 3,100 meters above sea level. The cultivation elevation appears to really play a major role in those secondary metabolites, with all of the studies showing that the higher the elevation, the higher the efficacy, specifically around the glucosinolates. And this can account for the quality of Peruvian maca being generally higher. But there's one contradiction to that, and that is with black maca, where the inverse relationship of the higher elevation to the lower glucosinolates explains why black maca from China has a higher level of glucosinolates compared to Peruvian maca simply due to the elevation. But to further complicate it, black maca is grown, if it's grown too low, the glucosinolate levels drop. And when it's grown higher, the glucosinolate levels might be lower, or other key secondary metabolites end up being higher. So it's very interesting about the specificity of where it's grown. This is fascinating to me. What we're looking at here are Peruvian products of Peru on the top and Chinese maca on the bottom. And as we discussed, elevation plays a major part in the secondary metabolite breakdown of maca and competing crops, solar radiation, microbes, fungus, and nematodes in the different soil. But this appears not to just be expressed analytically, but also physically, as we see here with the variations in the hypothetical shape. So the difference between Peruvian and Chinese maca, you can see here, is very obvious. And what I think is really fascinating about this is that the Chinese maca on the bottom has a physical appearance very much like ginseng. So apart from the concerns over contamination and pollution, both Peru and China have issues around naturally occurring heavy metals such as lead in the soil, but that's really due to the historic lava flows and the soil formation. So it's really a naturally occurring aspect. In Peru, something as simple as growing crops on one side of a mountain versus another is the difference between being compliant with Prop 65 heavy metals in California, for instance. Crop rotation is another factor in relation to soil quality, sustainability, and quality and hypothetical size, with Peruvian farmers only growing maca once every year and only using the same lot of land twice every 6 or 7 years. So there's really time for the ground to heal and be replenished of those nutrients. This is fascinating. So you see on the left the traditional methods of growing maca in Peru, that you see that the farmer is out there literally hand seeding. And then you see where it's growing in the fields at the bottom there. Looking at that compared to the Chinese methods, which are on the right there, where they're employing a two-stage cultivation method. So they're growing under glass house conditions for 8 weeks, and then they're hand planting in rows until mature and then harvested. And we're finding now that harvest stage also has proven to be very integral in relationship to the quality of the product in the end. The drying methods have proven to be one of the most important, but frankly, the least understood factors in impacting secondary metabolite profiles and the unique active constituents. So traditionally, it is dried at elevation in the highlands using sun during the day and under tarps at night. The modern method is to take it down to Lima, where it is put into tobacco dryers at a higher temperature. It's dried out in that manner. The traditional drying methods have shown to have a significant impact on the efficacy, potentially by activating an enzyme called myrosinase, which you kind of see in the literature if you're reading that at all. And this initiates a complex biosynthetic transformation pathway of different glucosinolates into these secondary metabolites, alkaloids, sulforaphane, and more recently, this thiohydantoin and its derivatives. But what's interesting about that is those are very rare in nature and only occur in maca when using the natural way of drying. So we're losing some of that benefit if we are artificially drying, even in those tobacco dryers. We've found that the storage time and location, both before and after manufacturing, play a major part in the quality and stability as well, because Lima has a very humid climate. So the ideal practice is to store the dried maca root at elevation in the highlands to avoid mold and breakdown of active constituents, and only ship it down to Lima when it's ready for manufacturing. And then temperature and humidity controlled manufacturing and storage is very rare in Lima, but this is a key aspect of stability. Gelatinization, which is water temperature and pressure, is why not all products are created equal. There are raw versus gelatinized versus extracted products on the market. So it's another defining feature that you want to be looking for. We believe that this packaging and stability are key, which is why all of our products are in oxygen and moisture barrier blister packs. And we've found that to be really important in keeping and maintaining that efficacy. So just in summary, we see that those secondary metabolites are all important and determine the potential different in health applications for which maca can be applied. But we also see that the elevation, soil, microbes, fungus, location, and weather of where they're cultivated, crop rotations, farming method, harvest stage, drying methods, and how they're manufactured and concentrated for therapeutic efficacy, bioavailability, and packaging to ensure stability are so critical, and why we believe that knowing where your maca comes from and how it is manufactured is really key to using a product that's going to get you to those root cause resolutions that we talk about. And we are the only company that has clinical data to prove that the product does in fact have a statistical impact on hormones without introducing any hormones to the body. So I'm going to stop for just a minute and see if anybody has any questions before I get into the specifics about the products.
And folks, if you're a little bit shy, you're welcome to enter your questions in the chat box. No questions?
No questions?
Okay, well, if you happen to have another question, there will be some time at the end of the presentation.
All right, great. All right, so now we're going to look at feminescence against other maca products. And this first slide is quite significant for obvious reasons. When looking at these markers on the left, what you'll notice is that feminescence has an impact on all of those markers across the board. When you look at raw maca, gelatinized maca, and maca extracts, what you notice is that they have some effects on a few of those measurements, but not across the board and somewhat intermittently at best. That's why people talk about it and write about it in books. It's been quoted in literature and written about in multiple books and research papers as well. So this is a really interesting slide, and one that I like to take a little time with. As Elizabeth and I were prepping for the call, I was explaining to her that I've studied herbal medicine for a long time. I love these herbs. And these are the herbs that I've become familiar with as a Western herbalist, right? So what's interesting here, the markers on the left that you see are Cooperman's and Green's indexes that are taken as measurements for peri and postmenopausal women. And what you see is that feminescence is having an impact on every one of those markers in 84% of women taking it. This compared to black cohosh at 60%, wild yam and dog quai at about 33%, soy isoflavones at 40%, and red clover with not a lot of clinical evidence really to support them at all, makes this really an interesting and important choice to consider because you're getting an impact on every one of those symptoms. This, if you're interested, is very interesting. What this is talking about the mechanism of action of each of those botanicals on the previous slide. And if anybody's interested in this, you're free to write me and I'm happy to share it with you. So now we'll get into the product line. So it's a very small and unique product line. You'll see, we'll go into the feminescence products first. So we have award-winning products. These are a few of those awards. But they are really targeted at time of life specificity. So what we're looking at here is the first panel is Maca Harmony, which is for women in their teens through to their reproductive years. And what I really like about this visual is that white line kind of represents what's happening throughout a woman's cycle as she moves through menstruation. And you see that she's making hormones fairly consistently with some ups and downs. But when those hormones get out of balance, she might experience things like menstrual health disorders, hormone imbalances, fertility difficulties, mood disorders, and her hair, skin, and nails might be a problem. Maybe they're dry and brittle, she can't grow them, that sort of thing. And the middle panel, Maca Life, is for women who are starting to experience menopausal symptoms, perimenopause. So this is for a woman who has still menstruated within the last 12 months. And you see that white line shows that she's in decline with the production of her hormones, but they're somewhat intermittent, and that causes a lot of havoc for some women. They might experience things like hot flashes, night sweats, mood disorders, and now their cardiovascular risk is a concern for the first time in their life, and still they may have trouble with hair, skin, and nails. On the right, you see Maca pause, which is for any woman past, 12 months post menstruation. So she hasn't had any menstruation in the last 12 months. Therefore, she's technically postmenopausal. Now, this can be women of any age for a variety of reasons. And this white line shows that she's no longer making hormones from her reproductive tissue. Here, we see that it has an impact, that hormone loss can have an impact on heart health, bone density, vaginal dryness, low libido, mood disorders, mental health and cognition, energy, hot flashes, night sweats, and still her hair, skin, and nails. So we'll look at feminescence Maca pause here. This is a proprietary formulation of Maca phenotypes to support hormone levels in postmenopausal women. And this is referred to as Maca Go, which is what all of our clinical research was performed on. This is a proprietary manufacturing process that we kind of discussed earlier to concentrate those entire spectrum of active constituents and maximize bioavailability. It's 100% natural, pure, and certified organic, GMP and kosher certified as well. And it has the independent clinical trials on postmenopausal women. We did independent double-blind placebo crossover clinicals with full pharmacology and toxicology on postmenopausal women in 3, 4, and 8 month durations. But what's interesting about this slide is that these publications and presentations, those are by institutions that are not at all about integrative and botanical medicines. These are generally organizations that are very conventionally medicine based. So why is this on our slide? They allowed us to publish our clinical research and to present at their conferences because they felt that the clinical research was well designed and that the outcome was remarkable. So it's very remarkable in my mind that these organizations that generally don't look at anything on our side of medicine acknowledged our work and findings about the product outcome with the clinicals. On the left, what you're looking at is the back of the box, and you see here that it's checking off all of the things that you're probably looking for in terms of symptom relief. Instead of introducing hormones into the body, feminescence is really through a unique mode of action, nourishing what's considered what is referred to rather as the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And that is really kind of the communication highway or the basis of your endocrine system. But what we're finding the longer that we are on the market is that we're affecting actually the entire endocrine system, not just the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And if you go to the Deanna Minnick article that I mentioned to you earlier, you'll find more about what that system is about. And if you're interested, this link goes to a whiteboard presentation about how the HPA axis works and what's happening in your body when you're taking feminescence and how it affects the HPA axis. So feminescence Maca pause is the first and currently only herbal product with clinical evidence that it affects hormones in postmenopausal women. And in our clinical trials, we saw that it optimally balanced levels of estradiol, progesterone, thyroid, adrenals, cortisol, and FSH. We also saw that it reduced postmenopausal symptoms in 84% of women versus 60% that we looked at on that earlier slide, looking at other botanical medicines. It reduced hot flashes and night sweats. It supports libido, reduces vaginal dryness, helps elevate mood and outlook on life, and it increases energy levels. With regard to heart health, it's important to understand how hormones affect heart health. And we know that estrogen increases HDL, it reduces LDL, and it maintains the elasticity of arteries, while progesterone is the relaxing hormones that protect arteries from spasm if the body were to have a heart attack. You may know that more women die of their first heart attack than do men. And the conventional wisdom is that it's because of the lack of estrogen that causes that outcome. In the double-blind placebo crossover clinicals, feminescence not only supported estrogen and progesterone, but over 3 to 4 months, it showed an increase in HDL, it reduced LDL, and it reduced triglycerides. It supported healthy blood pressure, it reduced body weight on average about 6%, and it balanced blood sugar levels, which is why we like to recommend that it be dosed twice a day, and we'll talk about that. This is a really profound slide. So the takeaway of this quote by Dr. Brogan, who is an integrative psychiatrist that practices in New York, I just want to pull out one sentence, which is that this plant-based intervention, which is feminescence, serves to re-educate the complex feedback loop between a woman's brain and her endocrine system. So this is a very powerful message that we are giving to the body in order to help it balance and calibrate naturally. We know that information within the body and brain are transmitted through hormones and neurotransmitters, and we know that they can affect mood, memory, and cognition. And without enough of those, we have disrupted or limited pathways through which they travel. So just to make a fine point on that, I had seen a study before I came to work for this company, actually, so that's been over a decade ago. At Stanford University, they took a group of 300 women that they knew were estrogen deficient, and they did a brain image on those women, and they saw that they had fewer dendrites as a result of having less estrogen. They administered an oral estrogen, and then just 3 hours later, they re-imaged those same women, and they saw that they were regrowing dendrites. So I think that that's really significant, right? We really want to help women understand that those changes that start to happen hormonally as we go through peri and postmenopause aren't something to be feared. It's just something to understand. And you can empower yourself in understanding why hormones are so impactful in this regard and not feel that there's some other concern that you need to be worried about. So feminescence uniquely supports both of these factors by those key amino acids that are the building blocks to produce hormones and neurotransmitters. Remember, we talked about that earlier on that slide where we looked at all of the amino acids, but this is also why your diet is really important. You want to be sure that you're consuming a very healthy diet that has a high level of amino acids and broad range of amino acids so that your body has those building blocks with which to grow. With which to support the production of these important hormones and neurotransmitters. So we know again that feminescence is uniquely supporting those, but that's not all. We want to have a healthy diet on top of that. We also know that it supports estrogen, which is going to improve the connection and transference between neurons and cells. And we also know that feminescence is supporting healthy cortisol levels and sleep patterns. With regard to bone health, we know that estrogen is supporting osteoclast, progesterone, and testosterone osteoblasts. So this is the building up and the breaking down of bone tissue. This is really important, and this is why the statistic has been pretty consistent that the majority of women will lose about 7 to 10% of their bone density in the first 5 years postmenopausally. So it's really important to pay attention to hormone health in order to maintain healthy bone. In our clinicals, we saw that feminescence increased gastrointestinal absorption of calcium and iron levels, which is going to have an impact on some of the features we'll talk about. And after 4 months in the clinical trials, it increased bone density. So we looked at a small nested study within that larger cohort and saw that there was an increase in bone density as measured by cortical and subcortical Z and T scores. So that's really quite remarkable. You wouldn't get that kind of effect without a statistical impact on hormones. We also know that hair, skin, and nails are very much impacted by hormones. As a woman gets into peri and postmenopause, she starts to become more and what's considered androgenic, meaning she starts having more male hormones on board as her estrogen and progesterone start to decline. And sometimes her thyroid function can decline as well. It's really got to be in perfect harmony and balance for hair growth. And without enough iron, for instance, women don't respond well to hair and skin treatment. And then that androgenic profile that we talked about can cause acne and hair loss, as well as your skin quality to decline. And all of that is associated with the hormone loss that women start to experience in peri and postmenopause. And, nails and hair can be really brittle as a result of these things. In the clinicals, we saw that feminescence supported thyroid function, iron absorption. It balanced those androgenic levels of hormones, again, male hormones. It supports the stress response. And what we hear often is that it improves hair, skin, and nails as well. Looking at Feminescence Maca Life, this is a proprietary formulation of Maca phenotypes for perimenopausal women to reduce menopausal symptoms. It's specific to that time of life. There were independent clinical trials on perimenopausal women, as I said, and they showed a reduction in symptoms, 74 to 82% of women, and it showed support of libido, reduced hot flashes and night sweats, vaginal dryness. It elevated mood and improved outlook on life, increased energy levels, and it supports heart and mental health. We saw an improvement in estradiol, progesterone, thyroid, and adrenal hormones, FSH, which is follicular stimulating hormone. And that's generally a marker that shows that women are starting to go into perimenopause with a decline. Hormone imbalance plays a critical role. And we saw a relieving of symptoms in menopausal women, perimenopausal women. It supported foundational health as you age, and it turned back the biological clock in some cases. So what does that mean? When we say that, what we're referring to is that some women in taking the product will experience a recalibration of their hormones, and they'll start menstruating regularly again. A lot of women don't like that. I think that we're kind of, ready to be through with this part of our lives, but we really want you to understand that it's important that you keep hormones on board for as long as possible, because it will help support your aging in a healthful and graceful way in terms of bone density and cardiovascular risk. It's going to reduce those risks pretty substantially, which is going to give you a better quality of life. These are some of the markers looked at in the clinical studies. And we saw that it supported estrogen and progesterone, healthy cholesterol and triglycerides, and it balanced blood sugar levels. It reduced body weight on average about 6% after 4 months of use, and it supported healthy cortisol levels. It also supports ACTH levels, leading to stress-reducing effects. And here are some of the other markers with regard to cardiovascular health. So Feminescence Maca Harmony, again, is a proprietary formulation of Maca phenotypes for younger women, supporting PMS, hormone balance, regulation of menstrual cycles, and fertility. And it's a proprietary manufacturing process that we've talked about already in earlier slides that we use. Another really interesting slide. So 20% of women under the age of 36 in the United States are using the pill for off-label uses, such as regulating their cycle, supporting or writing acne, PMS, PCOS, amenorrhea, a whole host of symptoms that women can experience when they get out of balance with their hormones. When you consider that many women go on birth control as early as 14 years of age, and then they're on birth control for literally decades, potentially, as they go all the way to peri and postmenopause, trying to regulate and manage these symptoms. We believe that going to the root cause is a far more sustainable and efficacious way to manage that. And we're doing that with Feminescence, but not introducing any hormones. We're supporting, again, the HPA axis and the body's own hormone production, really, again, going to the root cause. So it's helping to regulate menstrual cycles, acne associated with hormone imbalance. It decreases the physical and emotional symptoms of PMS, such as bloating, cramps, and mood, and it supports reproductive and core foundational health. This is Revolution, which is a proprietary formulation of Maca phenotype specifically for men's biology. And it's, again, it's its own formulation for men specifically of those phenotypes. So it's really for men anywhere from 20 on into senior years, and it's really going to improve energy and performance by supporting adrenal function and balancing blood sugar. It's designed to improve energy and reduce stress, balancing cortisol and supporting adrenals. It's improving sperm production and motility, and it's improving cardiovascular and sexual health plus energy, and it supports healthy cholesterol, triglycerides, and cortisol levels, supporting hormones like testosterone, adrenals, and growth hormone, and supporting libido and sexual health, supporting blood sugar balance, and insulin and glucagon. Insulin, rather. So I'm going to stop there because we're getting into some other products. And I know that you probably were interested in looking at the Maca products specifically. So I'm going to pause and see if anybody has any questions.
Any questions, folks? You're more than welcome to enter them in the chat box. And you're welcome to unmute yourself as well.
So I know I had asked some questions that were emailed in to
Yes.
Marlene's Dilling Market. And also, I don't see a chat box on my screen personally.
Are you using a cell phone?
No.
Okay. It should be located at the about midway through the screen. And it's about midway through the screen. If you kind of hover your mouse over the presentation, it should be
Oh, I see. Thank you.
you see it? You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually about to enter those. There was a few other questions that were from the email. But I can enter those in for you if you like, just so you don't.
Sure.
Yeah. You're welcome. There we are.
So Elizabeth, I don't see the chat box either. So do you want to read them to me?
Yes, I definitely can. So first one was, I just started Feminescence Maca Pause a week ago. Why do they taste like cigarette smells?
Wow, that's the first time I've heard that. Each person's physiology is different. It's interesting what things smell like to people, or taste like for that matter. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I have an acute sense of smell, and everybody around me can't smell what I'm smelling, but that's the first time I've heard a comparison to cigarettes as a smell, but it is a very pungent herb. It definitely has a very strong odor. Some people really like the odor, or the fragrance, I should say, rather than odor, or and some people really like the taste of the herb as well, and other people do not. So it's really dependent on each individual.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And then another one is, I'm one of those people that become tired when taking Maca Pause. Is there a certain reason for this?
So that's interesting. That could have, it could be an indicator of kind of your baseline status. It generally does not make people feel tired. If anything, it generally gives people energy. So if you want to call into our medical team and either speak to someone or write to us, we're happy to hear from you anytime, and we can guide you. But I don't know how long you've been taking the product. One thing I want to say about botanical medicine, broadly speaking, is that it's not a pharmaceutical, right? So we're not going to have a, hammer kind of experience like you will with the pharmaceutical. It might take some time for your body to recalibrate in order for you to get the kind of results that you're looking for. In the clinical studies, we saw on average that women got results, relief from symptoms within 2 weeks. So again, that's an average. What does that tell you? That some women got relief sooner than 2 weeks, and other women it took longer than 2 weeks. And with any botanical medicine, I like to recommend that people really commit themselves to what they're taking, whether which is really committing to themselves, right? Is that you want to give any botanical medicine protocol 3 to 4 months really to get the kind of benefits that the maximum benefits that we expect you to see. So I really would urge you to reach out to us on the question of the fatigue, because it should not make you tired. But we would want to help you understand what's going on there. So you can write to us at medical.team@Symphony Natural Health, and we're happy to run through that with you.
Because actually I did email, and naturopath did write me back, and I am on a plan with them to work through my fatigue.
Wonderful. Great.
Yay. That's great.
We're really committed to the product. We really stand behind the product. So we really like to encourage you to reach out to us if for any reason you're feeling like you're not getting the results. The other thing I want to call out is that inside every single box, there's an insert. And that insert really goes into what you can expect when taking the product. So you can take that insert out and it will walk you through a number of scenarios. It will give you some solutions were you to experience any of those. And then it has all of our contact information in the event that you do want to reach out to us at any point.
Well, and I just want to give a plug also that since I ordered from the website for the first time, I bought 2 boxes and I got 1 box free to try it out. And I thought that was really amazing.
Great.
Oh, yay. Well, that's fantastic. And I think that it's wonderful that you have doctors on staff to work directly with people and them using the products. It's great.
You know what, you probably remember me talking about our why and how we try to really be true to our vision. In what we mean by that is that we really believe in doing things right. And what we believe is right is that you stand behind the product. You give as much of the support to the product as you can, or to the person who's taking it. And we really think that the more we do that, we hope that other companies will follow as well. So we're happy to hear from you at any time, as I said.
Oh, we have Holly has a question. She has her hand raised. Holly, you're welcome to unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. I got it unmuted. This is, there was an awful lot of slides and a lot of stuff to take in. And I didn't hear if if it had any effect on bone disease, such as osteopenia or osteoporosis.
Holly, that is a really great question. I'm really glad that you asked it, because it's really important to understand what that disease is about and how critical it is to have some hormones on board. So I like to use the analogy of a building site. You can bring all the calcium, magnesium, strontium K, all of the, vitamin D, everything that we know of that will help to maintain or build bone density. But if you don't have the builder on, so the vitamins and nutrients in this case are all the building materials, hormones in this case are the builder. If you don't have the builder on the job site, then you can use all those materials you want and nothing's going to get built, right? So it's important that you have some hormones on board to maintain and help to build those bones. There are some really interesting studies about the effects of hormones, not only the kind of hormones that we're talking here, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, those sort of things, but also melatonin, which recently has come up in a lot of clinical study. There's something called the MOTS trial, MOTS, where they looked at using all of those materials that I just talked about, but adding melatonin had an effect on osteopenia in reversing it. So in conclusion, I mean, it's about hormones broadly speaking, and looking at making sure that you have all of the materials on board that you need in order to maintain that optimal bone density. But there's more that goes into it than just hormones, than just those nutrients that you think of. Alkalization is actually really important to bone density. As we know, weight-bearing exercise is really important. So there are a lot of features that go into maintaining good bone density. And we have some papers and resources that we are happy to provide to you if you want some education on that. We have a really long, I'll prep you for it. It's an extremely long document that goes into all of the things that can support bone density if you're interested in it.
And that's on the website. And would this be the same website where the woman who spoke earlier said that she bought a box and got one free?
Yeah, that's on the feminescence.com website. One thing I want to say is we sell directly to customers on our website, but you actually per box, you will get it cheaper at Marlene's than you will from us directly. So that's just something to keep in mind. We really want to support the stores that we work with. And so they have the best price that you will get the product at, with that welcome pack as an exception. But other than that, when you go to buy the product, you will get a better deal at the store.
Yes, definitely. And I think we might be having a good deal this month as well in honor of Women's Health Month. Also, I just realized my camera wasn't on. Something that I realized too is that you had mentioned Dr. Tori Hudson earlier.
Yes.
And she's actually speaking with us later this month on the 18th.
Great.
Yeah, and then Deanna Minich is later this year, I believe, in June on the 26th. And so to have that support from other local practitioners and other companies that have been, super successful, and they appreciate what you're doing. It just speaks bounds to what you're putting out there is very high quality.
Yes. So Tori Hudson is regarded as one of the leading experts in women's health in the naturopathic community. She's really quite remarkable. She's one of the sort of pioneering doctors for naturopathic medicine. So she's really got a wealth of information, and she does quarterly programs for naturopathic doctors where she presents evidence and research, and she's just a wealth of information. And Deanna Minich is just one of a kind. I mean, she's a PhD research scientist. She speaks on food. I'd really urge you to look at her website, which is I think she has a few, but if you type in Deanna Minich, you'll find her. She's got some great materials on Instagram, and I just really would urge you to take a look at what she has to offer, because she just has some really practical support for, broadly speaking, with regard to nutrition and that sort of thing. And she's an educator of physicians as well.
Yes, definitely. She's great. Oh. Okay, perfect. Yes, she's spoken with us a few times. I just love her examples of eating the rainbow and
Yes.
the importance of what we put in our bodies. And I just love her calm demeanor too. It's
Mhm.
like you could tell that she definitely does what she teaches
Right.
with
Right.
her health. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, great. Well, I was looking through my emails to see if there was any other questions. I thought there was maybe one more. But if anyone else has any other questions as well, we would love to hear it out. I am going to stop the live stream now. So thanks everyone who tuned in with us here on Facebook Live, and see you later on our next class.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye, Facebook Live.